Okie doke, we are trying something a little different with the setup because, again, this is a fresh start for this channel. We are rebranding it. We are trying something completely new. So hopefully it's picking up the mic here and not the mic in the webcam, but I don't know. So we're just learning here. This is an experience. So first video I want to do is stuff I have learned so far in my writing journey over the various projects I've been working on. Biggest thing I have learned so far is the keyboard you use is everything. And I mean keyboard, as in this thing. You would think that's a basic thing to figure out, but no two keyboards are created equally, and while some are great for short-term typing, not all of them are perfect for long-term typing. So finding the one that works for you is kind of important if you're going to be typing a lot. So for me, I've learned that mechanical keyboards work great for me. I recently had to swap back to the one I just showed you because this one was a favorite of mine. Yep, this one. This beautiful, beautiful thing I got on Amazon. I don't go for the super expensive keyboards. I am on a budget. But this one, it's very tactile. Because if you look carefully, they have these little raised ridges. So I can always tell where my fingers are on the keyboard. I don't feel like my fingers are just like floating from key to key and getting immediately lost, which is definitely a problem I have on some keyboards. It's also why I don't like keyboards with flatter keys, because I have to have the ones that have like a little bit of a dip to each key. And I mean, going back to this one because the spacebar on that other one I just showed you crapped out, this has a bit of that dip to the keys. You probably can't even see it, but because it's so slight and these are so smooth, my fingers literally just slide on the keys, which is not ideal. But I'm working with what I have, and at least they are shaped in a way and spaced out enough in a way that my fingers can comfortably just go from key to key without completely getting lost. Though it is still a teensy bit of a problem. Once you figure out what keyboard works for you, obviously you're going to get to typing. But before you get to typing, let me give you some tips on setting things up. Justified alignment. Justified alignment is your friend. That is when the edges of what you're typing meet the edges of the paper. That's also where you get that weird dash between words at the edge of a line. So part of the word is on one line and the rest of it's on the other. It's annoying, but necessary. Trust me. Also, double space. Justified alignment, double space. Those are important. I know it's going to be tempting. It is going to be very tempting at first to use the tab key at the start of paragraphs. It's apparently a big no-no. That is considered a harsh indent, and you will want to set a starting indent at the top of your Word document. That's those little arrow things in the margins. The very top arrow, that's what you want to be dragging to create that indent. Trust me, it is a big deal, and after writing 5 chapters of a book, I learned the hard way that I had to go back and fix that. Trust me, it's better to know that going into the project than as you're writing it. If you are like me and you are a bit of a combination of a plotter and a pantser, as in someone who likes to plan things out but also likes to wing it while writing, it's very easy to become one of those people that writes everything in the outline, so then you don't want to write the story because you feel like you've already written it because of how much is in the outline. When you outline your story, if you are like me, keep it vague. Keep the chapter outlines as vague as possible. Because trust me, A, it will definitely change as you write. B, characters definitely will take control. They will take the driver's seat and they will drive it right off the rails. So, granted, you will need to course correct. Trust me. Been there, done that multiple times. but things will definitely change from the outline, so you want to keep it as vague as possible. Another thing that is very tempting at the start of writing your first book, or just writing a book in general, because I am very much a fantasy writer, I have a dark fantasy that's very dark academia vibes in the works. I also have a just straight up fantasy adventure over on Wattpad that was going to be a book, and then it's just like, you know what, I'm just going to test it out in Wattpad, see how that goes. But one thing that you will more than likely think at the start is, oh yeah, this could be a trilogy. But before you even start planning the other books, think, will this work on its own? Do these separate thoughts work better together as one story or separately as different stories? And in addition to that, could it be split into parts within one book? Because it is completely possible to split books into parts. It makes it easier to do things like POV changes, just shifts in the story to then eventually bring it all together in the end. If you're jumping into a story thinking, oh yeah, this could be a trilogy, just look at what you have first before you start writing the first book. Because sometimes that book may be too short, and the rest of the trilogy will be like, oh yeah, no, that all could have gone into the first book, and the first book is just left on a weird, awkward, like, cliffhanger. Assess what you have first, then decide, will this work as a trilogy? Don't just jump into it. Something else a lot of smaller authors, especially indie authors starting out on their own, that may not be able to afford a cover design. One thing you will hear a lot is authors should not make their own covers. Granted, in my case, I started as an artist, then swapped into the writing journey and realizing that's what I wanted to do. So I have experience with digital art and design. But it's completely possible to make your own covers. Granted, they're probably not going to be the best to start, but it's always possible to swap up the covers later. A lot of series do that anyway, over time. But, okay, before I show this is a notebook. But I did make this cover design, and this was my first time seeing it on a book. So, this is the cover for my book, The Collectors, which I plan to release next year. Was originally going to be this year, but it's better off next year. But I designed this. I did this myself. Like, those little gems, those are from rings. Those are from rings I have. It's completely possible to make your own book covers. It's like, as long as you know what you want from the cover and you don't go overboard, it's fine. Like, for this, The Collectors is a dark fantasy where magical books called tomes are a main focus of the story. So, obviously, wanted to make the cover look like that, and it looks amazing, and I can't wait until it's actually a book, and just... I'll make a video talking about designing your own cover at some other point, but it's not impossible. It's not completely impossible. Don't let other authors tell you you can't, because you can. But I will also say, if you're starting out, simpler can be better sometimes, but also don't just rely on Canva. Just taking a cover from Canva and using that, not always a smart move. Although you can use Canva as inspiration. So just gonna say that. And one thing you will always hear authors say you need is an author site. As a smaller author who has many projects in the works, but nothing really to direct people to, I mean, aside from a few things on Wattpad, especially a sneak peek, as you build things, you will have more things to put on the website, but to start out, when you don't have anything to really direct people to, put an about page, like an about you as the author, like what you're writing, things like that. I have like a current projects page on mine with just like the covers that I've made so far, and then descriptions of the books, and whichever ones do have like links to, say, Wattpad, where the first 3 chapters of this book, The Collectors, are up for like a sneak peek. I have linked to that on there. I have linked to Booksy, which is also kind of like Wattpad, but like shorter stories I've written in the past. If you have a blog, you can link to the blog, connect your social media, things like that. Have like updates maybe on the homepage. It doesn't need to be like super crazy, super detailed, but to start out, it can be very intimidating when you have nothing to really be like, hey, I'm an author. I don't have anything yet, but I will eventually. So keep it simple. An about page, maybe a current projects page talking about what you're working on, links to things like, say, your Twitter, your Instagram. Maybe if you have like a buy me a coffee, like I have one, my homepage has like a little graphic of some of the digital downloads you can get. Focus on what you do have and what you can work with in the moment. Because then once you start having things you can add to it, then you can start just like phasing things out, putting more things on it. Don't worry about not having anything like physical, like a book. Because I mean, like I said, this isn't even actually a book. This is a notebook. And that was something I made for my book. So yeah, keep the author site as simple as possible until you do have things you can start directing people to. So overall, these are just a few things I've learned as I've gone on. There are definitely more things. I've made blog posts about this where I've talked about some of this stuff, and probably things I forgot to mention. But yeah, no. Starting out, there are definitely things I wish I learned beforehand, and a lot of what I just talked about is some of that. So I hope this helps at least someone in their writing journey starting out. And I guess I will see you guys in the next video. See you then.